Zombie apocalypse literature. Okay, if you're still here, you're the people I should talk to. The Living Dead by George A. Romero and Daniel Kraus. That's what I'm bringing to you today. Wow, what a book. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things we enjoy. Today, just Jim the father here, bringing you my reaction, spoiler-lite, to a book I recently read, The Living Dead. Whew, this book was something. I was interested as soon as I saw who wrote it. George A. Romero. You know, the granddaddy of zombie apocalypse as we enjoy it in this day and age. He's the director of Night of the Living Dead back in 1968. That movie established zombies, zombie films, although they never used the word zombie in that movie. Trivia for you. It's about a decade later he comes out with his sequel Dawn of the Dead and goes on to do a number of movies all set in the same context, the same world, telling different experiences of the same zombie apocalypse, even though many years pass along the way. He was just telling one story. And I learned in reading some of the information on this book, The Living Dead, that George Romero was a little frustrated about the limitations of what he could bring to the screen, including working with the people in Hollywood and what they would let him bring to the screen. The story he wanted to tell was not as possible as he would like. He had to convince them what would people actually pay to come see. Even though Night of the Living Dead was such a huge hit, he still had to work hard to navigate the hoops. And it wasn't quite coming out perfectly. He had a vision of what he wanted to tell, what story he wanted to tell through a zombie apocalypse. So somewhere along the way, he started writing a book. This is how he could truly express his thoughts, his feelings, his vision through this story. And that's what this is, The Living Dead. Now, he did not finish this book before he passed away, dying of lung cancer, unfortunately taken before his time. Daniel Kraus was hired by the estate to finish this book. Here's all the notes. Here's what he'd written so far. Daniel actually had the chance to meet George Romero once during life, was very impressed with him. He loved his works, and now he was also an author and had written actually his own zombie apocalypse series. So this was exciting for him to go ahead and work on. As he's working through it, the estate keeps finding more material, more things that George had written, that he had it scattered all over the place. So he describes it as kind of like a collaboration, because he's writing parts of the story and then, oh, we found something more that, oh, wait, now I have to change what I wrote, or no, I can't use that. You know, it's kind of a collaboration between George's material and what Daniel could make of it. And it came out really, really good. This is a serious take on the zombie apocalypse. It makes, as Romero stuff always does, some clear commentary about humanity, about who we are becoming, what we are doing to this world, and what it might be a good idea to change before it's too late. The Living Dead is written pretty much as two different stories. That has to do with the style. The first part starts right at the same time as the movie, The Night of the Living Dead. It's the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. However, this is not set back in the 1960s. This book was published in 2020, and it's written with modern day context in mind. So it's not trying to connect with the actual movies. It's its own story. And if it was happening now, how would this play out? It's done so well. There are many different primary characters that we get to see the experiences of when the world goes to kaput during the zombie apocalypse. And there is a through connection through one character using the internet and kind of having a touch point on many of these other characters. We get experience of a medical examiner when the first body comes back. We get an experience out on an aircraft carrier and what that's like when everything falls apart. Uh, we get experiences in various different places around the world, and how many of these main characters end up surviving. Because about halfway through the book, we shift to about over a decade into things where we're kind of at the tail end of the zombie apocalypse. The zombies that are still out there are not really doing much harm anymore. They're, running out of juice. Literally, they're drying up and dying, dying off. But the survivors, humanity, what have the survivors chosen to do? And many of these characters from the beginning of the story have ended up together at this point of the story, but there's more story to be told. And I love how the ending part of the book goes a new way, a new direction, and still telling stories about humanity and what it can do for good and what it might still screw up. So there is a bit of a morality story in this. There is some condemnation on the choices we've made that most of us reading this book will go, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we suck in that way. That's true. Be good if we decided to do something before a zombie apocalypse came along to try to fix it on us. And it ends with a note of hope that, hey, maybe we can be better. But along the way, there's delightful zombie apocalypse stuff of all different layers and levels. If you have watched Romero's films, some of the tones and notes that happen through the book will feel right, will match with some of the things, some of the themes that were coming through the movies. I have watched most of the movies, not the last one that he did. I will still need to get to that one. I think it starts with an S. Man, I should have wrote that down. Maybe I'll drop it in my notes. But The Living Dead, you don't have to have watched the movies to appreciate it, to get the story that Romero was trying to tell, and to pull things of value out of this. It's well written. Daniel Kraus did a great job pulling this together into one cohesive story, even with the two different levels of it. That's intentional. Pretty much the beginning and the end. And it works. It works really well. I can't think of another serious take on the zombie apocalypse that I thought was better than this one. This is exceptional. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Big recommend. Unless you don't like zombies at all, then it's probably not for you. But you didn't watch this episode, I'm sure, either. If you have any thoughts, if you've read it already, put your thoughts down in the comments. I'll always check those out and respond. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.